Awesome. Welcome, dear guests, and welcome, dear viewers. It is such a pleasure for me to be here with you today. My name is Irina Litchfield. I am known as a crypto superwoman, and I was invited to be a host today at VCTV. So bear with me, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate being here as well. Today, we'll be discussing impact investing. Impact is now something that has to be part of basically any innovation that is happening. We now live in a world where we're looking for impact in gaming, we're looking for impact in AI, we're looking at impact in blockchain, medical, I mean, you name it, it's there. And here on VCTV, thank you to Kyle and Maria and the whole team, LATOKEN, for putting this together. What we do, we discuss every single day, 2 times a day, 3 times a day, we discuss specific innovations. And so today, impact is much wider scope than it used to be. And it's my pleasure to welcome our speakers and have the opportunity to share their wisdom and experience that they bring to the table. And if you are an investor, we would love you to participate in this conversation as well. For me personally, as a participant and now a co-host, I would like to be able to connect with you because together we can build better network, better global network. And that's what we're here for. Now, for you entrepreneurs, I think that this is very important that you understand that we live in a different world and this world is full of opportunities. And investors need to deploy funding now, and they are deploying funding. So come onto platform, pitch, then follow the feedback, then pitch again, and see where you can grow with us. Let us empower you. Moving forward, I would love to introduce you to Gary. Gary, you are so inspirational to me personally. You're kind of the person that, get shit done. And excuse my French, but that's your company's name. And every single time after a year speaking, there's that, okay, I'm going to get this shit done. So Gary, next to you, please.
Yeah. Well, thanks you, Irina. I really appreciate that. And yes, the name of my company is Get Shit Done Venture Studios. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've now my second unicorn. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold for 1.35 billion a little over a year ago. We brought that company from Israel, and I actually named the company. I was the senior vice president of marketing business development. So been involved in startups, 15 different startups, NASDAQ IPO, and we love artificial intelligence because AI is the new electricity. It's going to change our lives. It is changing our lives, and it's helped us deal with all this massive amount of data that's in front of us. So it's great to see you, and glad to be here with you today.
Thank you, Gary. AI is such a important portion of our future. And when I think AI, I think personalization. And when I think personalization, that's what Gary said. So I really appreciate it. Steve, I would love for you to introduce yourself and share what you do. And welcome to be a first-time speaker on VCTV. It's a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you. I always appreciate the opportunity to speak, especially about investing and startups and entrepreneurship. If you look at where the big ideas come from, like Gary's talking about, anything that can do $1 billion in value, they make a significant impact on a lot of people. And that comes from brave people in the startup world. They're willing to do something that I think, 500 Startups founder had said a startup is something when you don't know what you're selling, you don't know how much you're selling it for, and you don't know who your customers are. So that's a lot of uncertainty and then you need a little support. For me, I'm a partner in an investment firm that we focus on seed and pre-seed early stage. Sometimes it's an idea on a napkin, and sometimes, it's a little more fully formed and they have revenue, but they're still in what I would call a business model validation phase where we're trying to discover, is there a market? and should this company actually exist? So a lot of our effort is built towards validation first, because I think you have to get it right before you scale. And an important part of that, for me at least, is I see there's a huge disconnect between entrepreneurs and investors, that I don't believe you're going to find an investor who invests in startups that didn't get their wealth from a startup that they created. So they understand the entrepreneurial world. A lot of the entrepreneurs don't understand investors, and that's a bit of a mystery. And I think that interferes with their ability to connect and get funding.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate the role that early investments make, investors make, because the angel and seed to me means exactly that. It means that an angel comes into your life, entrepreneur, and gives you those wings to be able to go and take those steps. To get shit done, you need funding. Often you need funding, and eventually you need funding. And then the seed allows you to go get that seed, build it, and put it into the earth. And it is the important foundation of ecosystem. And so I appreciate that you are doing it, and I would love to be able to see more angels and seeds going broader into different industries. We need more seeds for AI. We need more seeds and angels for space. I mean, quantum projects. So all this is important to have in the very early stages. And Nicole, welcome, welcome back. You've been here before. I have not had the honor to know you, so could you please introduce yourself and share with viewers what you do?
Yeah, happy to be here, and happy to be among all these panelists today. So I have a consulting firm, and we focus on marketing and branding and business development. That's one of my hats. I actually wear many of them, literally and figuratively. I'm also an advisor, and just helped to found a new fund called How Women Invest. And that is a fund that is sister to an organization called How Women Lead. And How Women Lead has 14,000 women that are a part of it, just in the Bay Area alone. And we decided last year that we were going to raise for this fund, and came back and decided to do so after a leadership retreat, and came back in March, which was pretty auspicious timing. But we decided to raise this fund, and successfully had a first close in 4 months. And this is a fund that is invested and subscribed by female investors, which a big part of our mandate is to get women to take control of their wealth, to participate in investing. So I'm really proud to say that this is a group of women, the initial investors, and all predominantly women of color. So over 50%. And we are investing, we're just really focused on disrupting kind of the unequal landscape of venture investing. And it often excludes women startup founders. So we're here to turn that around. And the total fund is a $10 million fund. And, you know, we're that we decided to do this so that we could invite in more investors, so we can take on 249 LPs. So what that does is it basically brings down the minimums so that we have even more investors, and just creating a safe, informed place for women to get involved in investing, and in a way that we can fund female startups. So we're investing in the late seed stage and early A, and I'll be happy to tell more about our investment criteria and whatnot later.
Thank you, Nicole. When I hear that, when I hear VC structure and funding, I hear women underrepresented, and when I think board, I think, missing view of female experience, and women just think differently than men. And that's just the truth. And the male world have been missing the insight that women bring into the industry. And so I really appreciate that you're doing it and you're empowering women to, and you're passing them the investment opportunities, because let's face it, that's one of the kind of a bigger benefits. And then you're allowing women to thrive, as well as sharing in experience of of women's insight, and really business women's insight. I really appreciate that you said marketing and branding. And so this is one of the very big gaps that are missing in many innovations. Many innovations that can have a huge impact, and thus the impact investing, missing that one link, and it is marketing and branding. And again, that goes to the space industry. Space industry needs marketing and branding expertise. There's a huge gap. Quantum, I mean, AI is, I think, already there, but there's more other innovations that are just stopped because there's not enough marketing and branding. And so your mission is very important. And I appreciated that you're combining your experience of being marketing and branding and bringing that into the investment world. It is so important for us to educate our companies into what that means to live in a new world where attention is your new currency. So marketing and branding is very important for your company, for your portfolio company, and for you entrepreneur as well. So thank you. And Tali, welcome back. It's such a pleasure to have you back. You're
Thanks
just
for having me back.
Yes, you're so driven by changing the world and the capital markets, and it is something that I relate very closely to. And so for those that don't know you, for the viewers, would you please share your experience, and what you're working on? What's your passion?
Okay, hope you can hear me. My name's Tali Onu. I actually live in the Caribbean, so lovely background. It's really Nevis. So I come from a very multidisciplinary background. Kind of like Nicole, I've always had a consulting firm. So I've had a consulting firm for over 20 years. And through that experience as an entrepreneur, I was able to do a number of things in the area of venture development, and also specifically in the last 5 years, had been focusing on ecosystem development. Within the last 5 years, too, I managed to meet my co-founder, who happens to be female, American. And we, both of us, thought to look at where the biggest pain points were for the ecosystem we were building. And so we happen to be supporting entrepreneurs, startups in the Caribbean, in Africa, and so on. And the biggest challenge was really access to finance. So we're like, okay, at the end of the day, we both kind of had a financial background, and we're like, we should be really focusing on redesigning this framework to facilitate, access to capital. And it wasn't just startups, it's also governments, projects, and so on. And we started looking at obviously the capital market. Coming from an alternative investment background, we're like, well, first of all, and you said it, when it comes to branding and marketing, and specifically design, finance is not sexy. Technology is not sexy. Fintech is definitely not sexy. So you find, especially, we started looking at how we can build an ecosystem for women and get women to access. Oh my goodness, that took so long. And again, this is the part of what Steve said. When you launch your own company, you go through the journey of success, failure, pivots. And we started to then realize what works, what doesn't work, what needs to be designed. And in that process, we also recognize that one of the biggest issues it is, apart from the technologies not necessarily being user-friendly, they were also, unfortunately, hard to understand. So the whole opportunity in terms of how do we introduce these new technologies and make sure people can adopt them and build knowledge came about. So then we founded Alt Schools, which is focusing on professionalizing the education in the area of alternative investments and digital financial market infrastructure. And so that's just one of the things. Then also in the area of technology, we have an incubator that we have been with a number of portfolio companies working on a number of different things, as well as we will be working on launching a fund pretty soon.
Well, rookie mistake. Remember, I said the rule is to unmute, and though I did it again, so I apologize. Democratizing investments all over the world is so important, and you know, I salute you for doing that. Thank you, Dylan. Welcome. It is your first time here on VCTV, and it's such a pleasure to have you. I mean, it's already nighttime where you are. And we thank you for being here and starting our morning with us. So please tell us about yourself and what you do.
Thank you, Irina. I'm a co-founder of Antler. Antler is an early stage VC firm. We have operations across 14 cities and across 6 continents. And our mission is to enable brilliant people to start groundbreaking tech companies that will solve, hopefully, the world's biggest problems. We do pre-seed and seed investments, and we follow on up until Series C. We have made 170 investments in the last 2 years, and we continue to do a big flow of investments during COVID times as well. The way that we run the program that's unique is that we have 6-month programs in each region, and we onboard brilliant people to come in with business, tech, and product backgrounds. So they need to have spike. They need to be they need to have entrepreneurial skill set, but they don't need to have the ideas. And the average person that comes in our program is around 10 years of working experience. So it's a pretty tough application process in the sense that it's an eight-stage process with less than 3% of the applicants being accepted. So we have really strong cohorts, the programs that we run. And when the program starts, we help co-founders find their other co-founders with complementary skill sets. And we also help them validate their ideas and do day and night coaching. Most of the programs that we run are on-site physical programs. After the first 2 months of the program, we have an investment committee, and we make a decision on whether to invest in these companies that are formed. And we continue the journey with the ones that we invest in for another 4 months. That's kind of on the structure of Antler and how the programs run and what we do. We do through our portfolio companies, we hope to make and we are actually making meaningful contributions to GDP and job growth in the regions that we are present in. And we hope that we are democratizing entrepreneurship, making it available to a wide set of diverse backgrounds. Have to say that 38% of the companies that we have invested in have at least one female co-founder, and that's around 3 times more than the market standards.
Democratizing entrepreneurship and supporting 170 companies in 2 years definitely is a big work you're doing, and it is so great to know that you guys are and doing it from Dubai and Singapore. And I hope that we can connect and empower so we can create an interesting network of people that can support entrepreneurs. So thank you for doing that. Dama, welcome. It's such a pleasure. Please introduce yourself and share about your work.
Yeah, hi everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, my name is Dama Satyanathan. I'm one of the partners at Battle Green Ventures, which recently has also been named one of the top impact investors in Europe. So it's no small feat, but there's a growing sort of community of really great sort of impact investors as well, and we're super, super happy to be part of that community. The way we invest is through sort of an accelerator program, which is our sort of flagship Tech for Good program, which we have kicked off, I think, the 16th program just today. So just coming from different sessions and getting to know different Tech for Good founders, so very, very hyped. But we've been around investing into Tech for Good businesses since 2012. Have invested in over 130 businesses, of which more than 80 are still active, which is great. These 80 companies have gone on to raise more than 87 million in further funding. We usually invest at the sort of pre-seed stages when they're pre-product, pre-revenue, but do a lot of follow-on investment as well, because we still have to sort of help Tech for Good businesses, purpose-driven business. We're driving positive impact at scale, plug the sort of mid-stage capital gap. So we have a large sort of co-investor network as well, which is really exciting to see, with a lot more sort of emerging fund managers as well, who are sort of distributing wealth and also ensuring that it matters who's on your cap table. Some of our companies that people might know is sort of Fairphone, which is a company that has built a ethical modular smartphone, looking into actually sourcing the minerals that go into your phone, like gold and cobalt, that actually coming from conflict-free mines, that it's being manufactured in companies and factories where there are decent working conditions, and the workers are actually allowed to unionize and can campaign for fairer working conditions with success, and also looking at the entire supply chain at the end. So reducing electronic waste, for example, and ensuring that whenever the modularity of the phone really allows you to perhaps buy a new camera because it got a new upgrade, but instead of having to buy a new phone that goes to landfill, you actually just buy the camera, take your phone apart, put the new camera in, and put your phone back together and have a great new camera without necessarily contributing to a massive amount of electronic waste. So Fairphone is one example, and we've got a whole range of different companies tackling the sort of climate emergency, trying to maintain a better society, really reducing inequalities in education and employment, driving different sort of diversity and inclusion initiatives for people with learning difficulties, refugees in the sort of education space as well as looking into maintaining a healthy life. So a lot of sort of health tech startups that have emerged in the UK, like Doctor, who did quite a lot of impressive work responding to the coronavirus crisis here in the UK as well. So that's sort of a snapshot of our portfolio. I always love to tell people that we're not your usual VC, and it's mostly, we're still a relatively small team. We are, including our IC and board, we are 16 people, and luckily 68% of us identify as female. So we're very female, women-led VC, as well as more than 30% actually come from an ethnic minority background. So we have different sort of lived experiences amongst our team as well, but also come from different sort of academic backgrounds or have sort of the operator and founder experience amongst our team as well. So you can really empathize with founders going through the really hard work of actually building an impactful business as well. Yeah, that's sort of Bethnal Green Ventures in a nutshell. We are a B Corp, so we're very proud to engage a wider stakeholder community that doesn't just include the people who are on our cap tables or our lovely LPs, but also the wider community of people that we actually want to serve, and building the sort of community of early adopters of tech for good products as well, which is super, super crucial in a time where people are saying that they want to put their money where their mouth is.
Thank you for sharing. And tech for good is something that now actually pays. So the beauty of current world is such that it is now good marketing and good branding. And so that is our reality. And I can see the passion that you have for tech for good. So thank you for doing that work. Raghu, last but not least, please introduce yourself and share.
Irina, thank you for inviting me. Very happy to hear all the impact that the panelists are having. See, my background, I came out of the .com world. I was just serendipitously lucky to be in a place to make some impact. I was involved in the USA.gov, which is the citizenship portal for the federal government here in the US, and also helped with the TSA's screening platform after the 9/11 happened. So that helped me kind of see the impact that even a small company can have. And since then, I've been advising companies with strategy all the way from seeding to harvesting, all stages, helping with strategy, raising capital, building teams, and also trying to help with scale up and go to market, exit, everything. So we have a kind of a outsourced team. We have a network, very deep network across the continents, both advisory as well as we have a captive system integrator that can help with the initial kind of MVP build out of promising technologies. I'm currently mainly kind of looking at, based on my advising, which I did formally through the Vistage platform. I had 3 groups in the Princeton area of CEOs and kind of trusted advisors in the middle market. And what I'm doing now is primarily looking at 3 areas: biotech, green tech, and kind of cyber cloud tech, which create the most impact because of the scalability issues involved. And I've also figured out a way to look at how to look at de-risked opportunities that have a chance of going from seed to harvesting within like a space of 3-4 years. So that's primarily what I'm doing. And I'm involved in the biotech area, a couple of companies. One is in the infectious diseases space to treat dengue fever and COVID as well. And diabetic peripheral neuropathy, these affect in a lot of populations. Another company in kind of the data protection area. See, just to take the kind of the COVID vaccine approach. See, everybody has got, kind of preventive approaches, and then there is kind of treatment approaches, therapeutic approaches, but vaccine is kind of the holy grail. So we are doing the same thing in the data space. There's a lot of preventive things like you do, like firewalls and all that kind of technology. There's also kind of incident response technology once somebody has kind of breached your system or whatever. Ours is like, there's a technology that kind of makes the data immune. So you can kind of, it splits the data, stores in multiple locations, kind of like the Harry Potter Horcrux, right? So you have to go to multiple places, so it's not easy to break. So things like that. So I'm happy to engage with other entrepreneurs in whatever fashion they need. So.
And data is such a subject right now, and privacy and security. These are all on top of our minds, and it is it is moving so fast as well in an adoption. And it is clear that from all the work all of you do, and others as well, that we are moving very fast, and the vulnerabilities in that does not work are highlighting, which allows us to then go and implement. And each one of you supporting those implementations and is so important. And so I would like to ask you, Gary, I will, data comes up and right away AI is the number one thing. How do we handle it? But how do we make sure we do the data analysis and data collection? Because data collection is necessary for us to be able to feed into the machine learning and AI models. So how do we collect the data so we find solution for privacy and then create that personalization that you are driving?
Yeah, so I mean, let's just draw a little picture. So the audience today, the panelists, the average person has about 300,000 items within their own personal cloud. Think about that. In 1996, the entire size of the World Wide Web, number of websites, was 257,000. So each one of the panelists here today and audience members, on average, have more information than were a number of websites in 1996. So, and each one of you, think about it. How many times in the last week have you said, I know that file exists, but I simply can't find it? Okay, I've either forgotten the location or forgotten the keywords. I don't care if you're going to Dartmouth College. I don't care if you're going to Harvard, IIT. It doesn't matter. It only matters is that there's a critical problem. The problem is, as Alvin Toffler said in the 90s, or excuse me, in the 80s, we have infobesity, right? Future shock. We are in a state of infobesity. Think about it. How many repositories does each one of the audience members have? Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, Slack, Telegram, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, LinkedIn. Think about it. You're inundated with information. How in the world, I don't care where you've gone to school, I don't know what you got, are you going to find what you have? And every month, every day, every second that goes by, we lose more. In the next 5 years, the average person will have 10 million items. So what I'm saying, Irina, is we're already at that state today. We are inundated with information. There's going to be I write a lot. I've written 74 articles on artificial intelligence last year. I just published one in Forbes on deep learning versus machine learning. We are in a state today where we've got to correct it. There'll be two classes of society: the people that know because they know how to use smart assistants and they get the help, and the people that don't know. And our job, I'm in the process right now of another article called The Democratization of Opportunity, Nikola Tesla's Dream Comes True. And it's going to be published in Forbes magazine in about a week. This is where we are today. Here we are on Zoom. When Eric created Zoom, I remember 6 years ago, and I was introduced to Zoom as an early customer of Zoom. Too bad I didn't buy the stock, but I was introduced. And they were talking about this, and my friend said, oh, I don't know if I want to use another networking tool. I don't know if I need a webinar tool. I can use Skype, but look at us. There are almost 400 million active participants. Our lives have been digitally transformed in the last 7 months. McKinsey said a year ago, 92% of the companies were going to do digital transformation next 10 years. Well, I'm telling you right now, it's happened. So the data, we are now in the greatest time in humanity. We are now being able to democratize the opportunities, and the people that use these are going to move forward. That data is upon us, and the people that can use the smart tools, machine learning, unsupervised AI, et cetera, are the ones that are going to win. And it's happening now because we're using it, and the audience members are using it to listen to this incredible webinar. So it's great.
Unsupervised AI, we could have a whole episode just about that, right? So it is so amazing to be living in a world where each innovation has such a deep vertical to where we can just keep going on and. And no matter where we look, there's an innovation in something else. And so it's moving fast. It's happening right now. Investors are ready to deploy. They're ready to support. The investors now want to be involved, assist. It's such a good time. And with that to you, Dylan, I would love for you to share how does the world right now works where you are? What is happening? Do you see deployment? What is the current state of investments in impact related companies where you are?
Yeah, So our mission, thank you, So our mission, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, is to really enable brilliant people. And I think if anything, we should be really pushing forward in faster and on our mission to do that, because the world is going through a crisis, and we really need to enable those people to help us solve these problems that we are facing today. So we have continued doing investments. So we made more than 40 investments since the beginning of the year. We are focusing a bit more on companies and business models that will be more recession resilient, and companies that will be able to survive on quickly turn positive on their unit economics. We have run a COVID initiative where we went through 500 accelerated cases and invested in a bunch of them. And so that was untypical to our usual format, but we thought that we would need to chip in as part of our social responsibility and fund these companies that needed capital as soon as possible. So yes, we are investing all across sectors, and then we think that the companies that will survive this period will be coming out even stronger.
Absolutely, and that's one of the important metrics that a lot of investors are seeing, looking for all over the board in all innovations and companies, and it is your ability to survive through these times. It's, persistence and perseverance is still one of the most important metrics to success that we can measure in humans and businesses. And so this is the time for you. If you're a surviving entrepreneur and you are finding solutions and you're innovating, you are the future leaders of the world. And so keep up and make sure you reach out to your investors, and make sure you reach out to channels that allow you to talk on the right language. So if you're early stage, talk to early stage investor. And if you're BC around, talk to appropriate investors. And that brings me to you, Raghu. I would love for you to expand a little bit on what's happening in middle markets. And if there's a liquidity, we're definitely seeing that there's, in early stage companies, we're seeing a lot of growth, a lot of deployment. Since you come from middle markets, I do appreciate the chance to dive into the state of current investments for B+ companies.
Yeah, I think the pandemic has actually created the seed ones, the ones that have already shown some level of progress or having better luck, raising money and getting money. So I think there's a new development that's happened, especially in the biotech space, is that there's all this money being raised as SPACs. So people already have the money and they're looking for the right companies to invest. And that is something, in fact, I'm on another panel today talking specifically about SPACs. And so in biotech, the companies that are more in the clinical stage are doing repurposing. They're having a lot of traction, as opposed to somebody who's like in the preclinical stage, which may take a while before they can actually create an impact. Because of the urgency created by this pandemic, people understand that repurposing is very important for quickly getting through the regulatory cycle. That's just on the biotech side. On the other things as well, what I'm seeing is that companies, the investors are, unless they are in certain sectors like in biotech or cloud infrastructure, working from home, that kind of infrastructure things, they are wary of investing in the seed stage. They're moving more to the kind of growth stage. So that's what my general observation is.
Yes, there's funding all abroad, and the opportunities are vast. And from my opinion, as an insight to small market cap is dead, and that's where things are dead, is where the biggest opportunities are. A lot is happening in the small market cap and going public, and the growth of specs and all that. And that really brings me to capital markets. Sally, share with us what you're seeing kind of in adoption of what are the big movements in capital markets that you're seeing, and
well, you're starting to see. Thanks. You're starting to see a shift on thematic investing along the line of impact. So where maybe in the last 5, 6 years, you didn't necessarily see as much traction in the areas of clean tech and sustainable agriculture and these areas that actually do create significant transformative impact in the different ecosystems. Now you're starting to see a realization that this is really a long-term, that's beyond a trend, it's a long-term sustainable goal. And there are greater linkages that have been made across the goals. So you're finding now a reallocation, a reprioritization towards these sustainable trends, especially in the area of ag tech. Food security is like so important now. And you're seeing that not just in the agriculture side, but also in the maritime, fisheries, aquaculture section. You're also seeing even when you're looking at a traditional asset class like real estate, because of the, should I say, servicization of real estate, where you add additional operational models around it. They're all now built around areas that impact people's lives and also sustainability. So then, there's innovation even in an asset class that traditionally never really, had innovation. Someone had mentioned, some of the areas they look at even across the value chain. When you even look at mining, there's now a greater appreciation and a lot of the institutional capital, they're actually looking for operations that are more, that address ESG factors and stuff like that.
Yes, and I really appreciate that input. I apologize to interrupt you, but Stephen, Nicole, unfortunately must go. So before you guys leave, please share where can you be found and quick insight. Nicole.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I am super happy to connect via LinkedIn. I request that if people could indicate that this is where we connected and met at first, but and absolutely to my fellow panelists, I applaud you for your work in impact investing. I stand by your side. I would love to share deal flow and whatnot. It's just really important that we're moving forward in conscious ways. The world needs us now to be conscious in terms of our social impact and the environmental impacts that we're all making. And we can do so via the entire value chain in a really meaningful way. And that is from the LP to the fund manager, to the founders, to the products and services that they deliver. It's just really important to be conscious and thoughtful through that whole value system. And that's what I pledge and aim to help disrupt. And that's why I stand alongside my fellow investors, predominantly female, but not only. A lot of conscious, wonderful men invested in our fund as well. And I'm standing alongside and to really fuel those organizations that are co-founded by women, because we have all kinds of great data and that, diversity yields higher returns. So we're not just talking about impact here, we're talking about ROI and meaningful ROI, where you have things like privately held technology companies that are led by women are just even more capital efficient. There's a Kauffman Foundation study that says that there's 35% higher ROI achieved when there's a female founder as well. So thank you for having me. Nicole DeMeo, Outfront Solutions is my consulting firm. And then I'd love to connect on LinkedIn about my How Women Invest fund as well.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you very much for sharing your time, and looking forward to connecting with you myself as well. And Steve, I know you have to run. Thank you for coming. We have so much inside, and please share how we can find you, how we connect, and what is your insight.
Oh, sure. Always welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You know, a lot of insight, you know, in a business consultant role, my favorite clients, you know, usually are the female entrepreneurs. The Kauffman Foundation did some research that found in a startup, if it's owned by a female, there's like a 33% greater chance of success. So how do you not get behind that? And I mean, I can tell you women function differently than men. You know, a lot's been said about investing, so maybe I could just touch on that for a second. If you're in a relationship with a man and there's a problem, usually they want to jump to solving it first, go straight to the solution. And women maybe more want to be heard and feel things out. And so I noticed it's not just in relationships, it's also in business. So when women have problems, they go wider and they go deeper and they connect with other people. It doesn't mean that they can't problem solve. It's just not the first tool that they reach for. And what I think ends up happening when you do that is you get more people involved. You have a greater understanding of what you're actually dealing with, and you have more of the discretionary effort from the people that are working with you on your team. So they feel included, they give you their heart, and they actually want to participate in what you're doing, and they feel valued. And so it's easy to take everything that each of us do and that we work in and look at markets as a whole, or segments as a whole. What's happening with drones or 3D printing or things like that. But at the core is always the individual, you know, whether it's the individual investor or if it's the individual startup founder or the teams that drive them. We make assumptions that an enterprise is going to be successful. I don't make that assumption, because most of the time it's not. If you're an entrepreneur, you're probably going to fail. And that's part of the game, and that's why you do it. And so you need to have a good team around you, and you need to stack the odds in your favor. And so I think that there's a lot to be said, you know, for diversity and what it can do for us. And I'm glad to see that there's a lot of people addressing and investing in that and making it a priority, because I think it matters.
Absolutely. Interpersonal relationships and an emotional education, I think, is now becoming more valuable than it has ever been. An ability to connect with each other and collaborate is the key. And it was really refreshing to see your insight on, especially being a woman, your insight of what you see women bring
Sure.
to the table. And it was spot on. I feel like you went into my soul and my heart and figured out exactly how I work. So thank you so much, Steve. Thank you for coming. It's such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. And Dama, you also have to run, I know. So if you could please share an insight and share what's the best way to get hold of you, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way for founders to get a hold of us, because we're always open to getting to know founders before they apply to receive investment as well, and it's no warm intros needed. So you simply go to bethmcgreenventures.com/apply. There's all the information and the eligibility criteria also listed, and a few sort of examples of recent portfolio companies. For other investors, there's so many different sort of communities and Slack channels as well. So I'm also on a lot of those, but please do also reach out on LinkedIn. Always happy to chat more and sort of talk about different VC experiences as well. And sort of one maybe call to action for everyone who's very interested sort of in the impact investing space. We always talk about how impact doesn't necessarily just have positive impact. Impact can be negative, both negative and positive. So for everyone to really explore resources, to really think about unintended consequences as well, especially when it comes to tech for good businesses, or relatively any tech business. Mostly because tech is neither good nor bad, nor is it's never neutral. So it always makes a good sort of, makes good sense to actually look into the provenance, the ownership, the sort of product design, all different aspects of building a product and service to actually encounter all the important aspects and to bring this together to actually build something truly impactful and drive positive change. So we have a few sort of resources on our Tech for Good Global website. So it's simply techforgood.global. There's a whole knowledge base with different toolkits, from consequence scanning to the Ethical Explorer developed by Omidyar Network. So yeah, please feel free to roam about and check out the Airtable with a lot more resources to add as well. But yeah, thanks for having me. Cheers.
Thank you so much for being here and for your work and for your contribution. And we look forward to seeing you back again and continuing this discussion and watching you grow and your portfolio companies grow as well. Well, we're getting to that point to where we can start contributing time for what the insight that you have, and please share what's the best way to contact you, and maybe share one of those. What do you think for your investment is that negative positive impact? Because we don't talk about that too, and I would love to throw that little curveball into your closing thoughts. Because, and I'll give you an example, VR. Negative impact is actually traumatizing experiences, and there's a whole black market with that, and it is monetized very well. So each industry has that dark kind of an aspect that is a reality, and I would love for you to be able to address of how what is being done and what solutions are built that can be an opportunities for investments that can address those. So for example, VR, there's interesting practices and a governance and all kinds of solutions that are trying to be born to prevent traumatization, okay, of people through these integrative experiences. And Dylan, I would love for you to kick it off.
Yeah, sure, of course. Well, this is an area that we are very passionate about. So we, when we at the stage that we invest in, the companies are still at very early stage, right, pre-seed and seed, and sometimes the negative impact is not necessarily clear per se, but we do try our best to kind of monitor the situation. But initially, I'll walk you through what we do to prevent that from happening initially. So what we do is at the pre-IC stage, it's very important that there are clear UN SDG Sustainable Development Goals that are fulfilled. So the companies need to somehow contribute to something that's good. And when at the time that we are signing the investment papers, they need to sign up to impact in ESG principles that we have that are embedded to the legal documentation. So they need to, they're kind of first principles kind of documents and the best efforts kind of documents, where they by signing, they adhere to the code of conduct that Enter expects from portfolio companies. After we invest in these companies, we have regular training sessions with them on both impact and ESG and diversity. We put them under responsible investing umbrella, and we go through each of them. And I appreciate they are quite interconnected in a lot of the cases as well. And we expect them to report back to us on their KPIs that we predetermine on the impact and ESG side. And we share them with certain organizations that we're collaborating with. So we do our best to kind of be proactive about this, and also use this opportunity of being an early investor to influence the companies in the right direction. Our policies also hold off on investments and exit the investments that we don't think are doing good to the rest of the world. It's just never worth it, I think.
And what's the best way to get hold of you?
Probably LinkedIn, but it would be very good to also include a blurb on what the angle is, so I can help you the best way possible.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Gary, now when we think about AI, I mean, a lot of people just straight up fear your work, right? They think they live in the fears of what AI is going to be, and they think that it is the negative impact is going to just kind of lead to domination. So please address that and then share what's the best way to get hold of you.
Well, I think they're talking about Elon Musk and not me. But I talk about compassionate AI. So one of the things that I'm a clinical psychologist too, so I look at it a little differently. It's a lot about the training sets. And we talk about if we teach a system to be pragmatic, that's what's going to happen. But if you add compassion, I've written about it in Forbes. I just wrote an article in Medium about emotion AI and the future. And so a lot of it is, in fact, my partner, David Yang, originally from Armenia, who lives in California, billionaire entrepreneur, he actually has AI in his house, and his AI has a soul. So it makes decisions. If it doesn't like you, it doesn't let you in. If it likes you, it lets you in. He has his own pet robotic dog, and his dog, I think it's Blinky, but it's like a Boston Dynamics kind of dog. And it runs around the house. It's just amazing thing I've ever seen. And it talks to me. It sends me notes on Telegram. I once ask him how I'm doing, life. So we need to really create, if you teach a kid for the most part in the right way and you're supportive and nurturing, you get a good kid. If you teach it in the wrong way, you get what you teach. And so a lot of it's about the training sets. We need to do a good job of making sure that we train the AI the right way, or we will get a very pragmatic, very, very interesting decision point where it's not going to be humanity taken into consideration. It'll be about how to survive, and maybe not us.
Right. So that's exactly what I'm saying, that a lot of people fear about.
Well, that's because we need to train it. You know what I mean? It's, Irene, if we train it the right way.
Just like our children, we need to train them.
If you take a kid and you don't train a child the right way, what happens? So, I mean, they may train out good, but the probabilities are not going to train out good if we train it the right way. So yeah. I'm really hopeful. I'm really excited about it. I'm writing a lot about it. I'm writing a book called AI in the Age of Influence. So, I mean, I'm personally deeply, deeply involved. And I always look at it as from a glass half full. I believe we can do it. I mean, we've done it with Eva, the company I co-founded. So I believe it can be done, and we're right on the cusp of an incredible opportunity for all of us.
Invest in the positive data sets and add behavior.
Positive things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what's the best way to get hold of you, Gary?
You can reach me, Gary Fowler, LinkedIn, or Gary at GSDVS, getshitdoneventurestudios.com. We'd be happy to talk to you. Join my shows. Got Guy Kawasaki coming on next week on the 22nd. GSD presents, and also today Gary's Picks is in about an hour. So It's a Silicon Valley based show looking at the top startups in the world.
Get shit done. And I think that just summarizes.
I love it when you say it. You know what I mean? Yeah. When I say it, I have to think twice, but when you say it, it's perfect.
Yeah. Yes. And it's in the name of your company. I mean, it's not a curse word. It's not a meaning. It's just really, and it's all, it's just a terminology that means something very specific. It empowers me, Gary. Okay. So you empower me with this. And I say that to myself when I need to make that.
I'm humbled.
Thank you. So thank you for, for being and for doing and for contribution and what you do for the world. It really is amazing. And I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of yours. And Sally.
And likewise.
Yeah.
Sally.
Well, just to echo Gary, when it comes to unintended consequences in AI, my concern is really on access, because obviously AI is developed based on your own experiences with the world. So, if AI is being developed by one set of people, that's why you need diversity, a set of people, then it then becomes a, should I say, implicit bias. There's room for implicit bias. So for me, I would love to see AI have a greater access to AI and greater access to the capability of developing algorithms and these type of data sets you could train for. So for, that's most important. Even for a lot of the different industries that we're looking to try and support with impact investing, you can't do so without data. So data is really, really important. The other unintended consequence, I would say, and I can look at it also from the perspective of, this whole digital financial revolution here, is an unintended consequence of moral hazard. That's something that can be prevented by design. So I think it's easy to venture to say not only are we in a intelligence, era, we're also in a design economy. So coming back to what you said at the very beginning with branding marketing, I think I could distill it to design, and design from the perspective of governance and governance systems is really fundamental and critical. So that's my takeaway. So while you are looking at investing in impact, you have to also ensure that the design is done in such a way that it doesn't promote these type of unintended consequences like moral hazard and so on. I mean, technology is now disruptive. It disrupts. And in finance, you're talking about disintermediation. There are people who are going to lose their jobs. That's just a fact. I think Gary said it. You're going to have a case where people know.
Okay. It will be fine. No one should be scared. It will be.
No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. But you have to come to the realization that things are going to change. And in the last 6 months, things have actually propelled us further to change. But if you have inertia and your resistance to it, you're going to end up having a hard time. So, I mean, it unlocks the opportunity, but people have to be able to see that there is actually an opportunity to take advantage of. And that is highly driven by knowledge, highly driven by retooling yourself to get these new skill sets in order to participate.
And Tali, what is the best way to contact you?
You can reach me easily. I guess LinkedIn would be the best. I'm also on Twitter as well, but I'm more a LinkedIn person. Just put in the context in which to reach, and then you can also reach out on outschool.co to look at our programs. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And Raghu, closing thoughts and what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, I'm also a LinkedIn person. I like to also connect people. So anybody, even if I'm not able to personally, help in terms of investment or whatever, I'm happy to connect, founders and others to the right, people who could help them. So again, thank you so much for having me on the panel, and I look forward to interacting with some of the other co-panelists as well going forward.
Absolutely, it's such a pleasure to have you here and be able to share your insight as well. And dear viewers and dear guests, thank you so much for your contribution, for your time, for what you do. And thank you, LATOKEN team and Maria and Kyle. You are amazing and your best, and your gift to be able to host is beyond explanation. I'm honored to be to fill in your shoes for just one time. I must say, not many things make me nervous. I was nervous, and so thank you so much. Please follow us, follow LATOKEN. I mean, and follow VCTV. Be part of our network. Join us. Let's expand our conversations. We keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and that's what I love about what we are doing here, is because we keep getting deeper into our conversations. Sure, some of the things we repeat because we must, so the industry can understand them, so entrepreneurs and funds can understand them. But overall, we keep getting deeper and deeper into our verticals. And I believe we're realizing more and more that it is an integration of innovations and our efforts that leads us through these opportunities. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful time. And I'm looking forward to seeing you back on VCTV soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.